Tonight, a community in shock. Tributes are paid to the 3 teenagers killed in a road accident in the West Highlands. Also making the headlines as the weight loss drug Mounjaro surges in price. We hear how some are turning to the black market to access the drug.
I've had patients that have been using vials, apparently it's Mounjaro, and, it clearly isn't.
Peak rail fares across Scotland come to an end, meaning a cheaper deal for commuters. And in sport, we've all the latest as clubs make last-minute moves on transfer deadline day. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It's a car crash that's claimed 3 young lives and left a community in shock. Support is being offered to youngsters in Lochaber after 3 teenage boys were killed in a one-vehicle accident in the West Highlands on Thursday night. Tributes have been paid to Fergus Ward, Lewis Knox and Jordan Cameron as investigations continue into the tragedy. Nicola McCally reports from Fort William.
A minute's silence as Fort William Shinty Club players mark the loss of their own at Saturday's game. Young players Fergus Ward and Lewis Knox were killed along with their friend Jordan Cameron when the car they were in left the A830 at 11:15 on Thursday night on a stretch between Malig and Arisaig. The fatal crash has left people in Lochaber in shock.
We are a very tight community. And I think times like this, the community spirit just shows through. We all pull together and do what is needed. And yeah, I don't know, for the people grieving, this is going to take years, if ever. So the support will be there throughout those years. We have a guidance service within the schools to support pupils. Our headmaster at Lochaber High has sort of made extra people available so that anybody who does need to talk to anybody about the effects on them, and I'm sure there will be a few, that they've got that service there.
Throughout the weekend and today, people have been leaving flowers, sports shirts and messages at this spot on the road into Fort William, a focal point for people to gather, to reflect, to share memories and grief. Police are appealing for anyone who was on the road at the time or has dashcam footage to get in touch as a community comes together to mourn such a huge loss. Nicola McCally, STV News.
The Prime Minister says he wants to end the use of hotels to house asylum seekers after another weekend of protests. Keir Starmer said he understands the anger of local residents as his government announced a crackdown on refugees bringing family members to the UK. Well, let's get more from our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertsayanis. And Paris, this issue is at the top of the agenda as MPs return after the summer.
That's right, Kellyanne. It's the start of a new political term here at Westminster, and migration is the issue the UK government felt it had to talk about because of the record numbers of people still crossing the English Channel and the way that Nigel Farage's Reform Party is stretching its lead in the polls. Over the summer, too, the protests outside of hotels housing asylum seekers has been one of the big political stories. And at the weekend, we saw more protests in Falkirk, where the number of protesters and counter-protesters in support of asylum seekers has continued to grow. The Prime Minister says he wants to see an orderly end to the use of hotels, but until then, his government is going to try and bring down the numbers. So today, refugees have lost the automatic right to bring family members here to the UK. In practice, that means any refugee who wants to be reunited with a loved one is going to face tough new restrictions on their finances and on speaking English.
This government is determined to fix every aspect of the broken system we inherited and to restore the confidence of the British people. Solving problems, not exploiting them. A serious and comprehensive plan, not fantasy claims based on sums that don't add up or gimmicks that failed in the past. What we will never do is seek to stir up chaos, division or hate, because that is not who we are as a country, and that is not what Britain stands for.
Life is going to be made more difficult for people who already suffered a lot while seeking asylum, then got their refugee status, and they want to simply bring their loved ones here. And I think it's not going to be a proposal that's going to be workable, and it's just going to add more pressure on the already failed asylum system that we have.
And Keir Starmer has also attempted a relaunch of his government today. What's that all about, Paris?
Well, we've seen a clear out of senior staff from 10 Downing Street. There's a new head of communications and of the policy unit, and a senior minister has been brought over from the Treasury to ensure that it's the Prime Minister who has a grip on economic decision making. Keir Starmer says that this is a new phase of his government aimed at delivery. His critics say that he's blaming his staff for the lack of direction that he's delivering.
All right, Paris from Westminster, thank you very much for that. Now, from today, the cost of weight loss drugs has risen sharply. Those seeking Mounjaro privately could now be paying over £100 more for the drug than before. It comes as US manufacturer Eli Lilly raises its prices to align more closely with higher rates seen in Europe and America. But there are growing concerns about patients who may be forced to stop treatment or turn to unregulated sources instead. Amy Flecht reports.
Jenna owns this salon in Newhaven in Edinburgh. As a mum of two, her busy lifestyle allowed her little time to focus on weight loss. In 2022, she even had liposuction in an effort to slim down. But she says nothing she's tried has been as effective as Mounjaro.
With the Mounjaro, you're kind of training the brain, you're eating less, so you kind of want to make better choices whilst on that, but you've not got the food noise.
From today, the cost of one of these pens has increased by 170%. Now, the manufacturers have offered a discounted deal to UK suppliers to limit the rise, but it could still see patients paying over £100 more per month for the drug.
After nearly a year on Mounjaro, Jenna says the price hike has pushed her to start weaning herself off the medication.
My first thought was get your last pen in now before the price goes up. I think it's to a point now, I'm at the weight that I want to be at. I've lost 4 stone. There has to come a point where you wean yourself off it and you have a healthy, balanced diet and do it for yourself.
This online pharmacy saw a surge in new patients after the increase was announced, driven by supply shortages elsewhere. But there are growing concerns that some patients may now turn to the black market to access the drug.
I've had patients that have been using vials, apparently it's Mounjaro, and, it clearly isn't. Now, we don't know what is actually in that patients are putting into their body. And also the risks is that it might not show up immediately. I really, really encourage patients to think twice and just stick to regulated sources. It's not worth it.
And for those cutting ties with their prescriptions entirely, there's a risk they could regain the weight they've lost.
We know that when people stop taking the drug, they will regain weight, and then you'll get a re-emergence of risk factors for cardiovascular disease and diabetes, etc. So if the price hikes mean those people stop taking it, then a large number of people are going to regain ill health.
Jenna is confident she'll be able to keep the weight off, but if she ever does decide to go back on the prescription, it'll come at a heftier price. Amy Flett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Now, if you've been on a train today, you might have noticed some changes in how much you paid for your ticket. Peak fares have been scrapped across Scotland for good, meaning you'll now pay the cheaper off-peak price no matter when you travel. It's hoped the move will encourage more people to ditch their cars and travel by rail. Well, our reporter Ollie Dickinson has been crunching the numbers. So, Ollie, talk us through, what does this mean in pounds and pence?
Well, we've taken a look at 3 of the most popular commuter routes across the Central Belt. And remember, when we talk about peak times here, we're talking about those that used to apply before 9:15 and then between 4:42 and 6:30 in the afternoon on certain routes. Now, let's start with the big one, Glasgow to Edinburgh, Edinburgh to Glasgow. A return ticket there used to cost you £32.60 at peak times. It's been cut to £16.80, a saving of 48%. How about from Inverkeithing to Edinburgh? Well, that, as you can see, used to be £12.60, but it's been slashed to £7.40. And it's a similar story between Glasgow and Stirling, where there you will now pay £10.80, and that is a saving of more than £7, not to be sniffed at. We've been out and about speaking to commuters about the change.
I travel between Dunblane and Queen Street.
And will these prices make any difference?
Yeah, the flexi ticket takes it down by about £10.50. It should never have been stopped in the first place, in my opinion, but I thought it was a backward step, but it's good to see it back.
Initially, when it was like the peak ones, I would sometimes get the bus. It would just kind of vary. Now I feel like it's going to be cheaper, so I'm really pleased because I use it every day.
I think for people like me who commute from Stirling most days to go to university, it really did help having a bit of a subsidy, so I definitely think it would be very helpful for people continuing on if they're wanting to travel in between cities during the peak times.
And Ollie, some of our viewers might remember that there was a trial of these reduced fares, but then the peak fares came back again. So what's changed?
That's right, Kellyanne. So, well, back in October 2023, the then First Minister Humza Yousaf scrapped peak fares in a bid to make transport more affordable whilst lowering emissions. That trial was canned last year by the Scottish Government due to what they said were financial challenges, and at the time what we were told that the trial had made no change in passenger numbers. But then earlier this year, John Swinney announced his government would scrap peak fares for good, signalling the end of the line for those higher fares. Do you see what I did there, Kellyanne?
Very good, Ollie, very good. All right, thanks very much for that. First Minister John Swinney and Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar say they were shocked by reports alleging a hidden camera had been placed in toilets at the Scottish Parliament. Suspended Labour MSP Colin Smith has been charged in connection with indecent images, but has denied allegations he put a secret camera in Parliament toilets. Well, our political editor Colin Mackay has been following this story. Colin, what's the latest?
The First Minister says he's been horrified by these reports. An MSP's return to Holyrood tomorrow after the long summer recess, and some of them say they feel violated by this. Colin Smith was arrested and charged by police on the 5th of August with possession of indecent images, including of children. He denies putting a secret camera in Parliament toilets, and he's been suspended by Labour. Scottish Labour leader Anna Sarwar spoke about all this for the first time today.
Look, it's a deeply shocking situation, and of course it's deeply distressful for all of us in the Labour Party, but distressing for people right across the parliamentary estate, and actually many people distressed across the country. And obviously I'm limited in what I can say given the fact that this is an ongoing police investigation. But we became aware of the seriousness of the allegations on the 18th, and we suspended Colin Smith on the same day. He is now an independent MSP.
Now, you can see more of that interview with Anna Sarwar on Scotland Tonight at 10:40, but Colin Smith can't actually get into the Scottish Parliament because his pass has been deactivated, and I understand that he is standing down as convener of the Parliament's Economy and Fair Work Committee ahead of their meeting on Wednesday, and that the presiding officer will meet party leaders to brief them on the latest tomorrow. Now, Colin Smith said that he's cooperating fully with inquiries and hopes that they can be resolved quickly. He's due to appear at Dumfries Sheriff Court, but we haven't got a date yet.
All right, Colin, thank you very much for that. A 44-year-old man has been arrested in connection with the sexual assault of an 8-year-old boy in a tent in Drumnadrochit. Police had been investigating after the child reported being approached at the Loch Ness Bay campsite in the early hours of Thursday, the 31st of July. Inquiries are ongoing. Now, it's one of Scotland's most famous roads, and tonight it's closed again. The A83 at the Rest and Be Thankful has been hit by no fewer than 11 landslips after a weekend of heavy rain, the worst in a new location along the route. For communities in Argyll, it means long diversions, disrupted lives and mounting frustration. Meanwhile, uncertainty is growing over whether the proposed tunnel will truly solve the problem in one of Scotland's most landslip-prone areas. Caitlin Hutchison reports.
Another landslip, another closure. This time, torrential rain sent rocks and mud crashing down at a previously unaffected section of the A83, once again blocking the main artery connecting Argyll to the Central Belt. For drivers, it's a familiar story, some taking the 59-mile diversion, while others are turning to the ferry.
Some of the people that the workers don't like getting the ferry, so they prefer to travel around, so it will affect them more than it will us. But obviously the delays on the ferries will be affecting us.
I don't know what the answer is, they just keep throwing money at it. And it makes absolutely no difference.
Kick the can down the road, that's it.
Doesn't seem to make any difference the amount of work they do it. Until they get the
permanent solution in place, it's never going to get any better. And they've promised it for years and never delivered.
For Natasha, the disruption hits hard. Stock deliveries are delayed and even the daily papers aren't making it through.
Usually they drive round by road and obviously make their way here and hit all the shops on the way. We're usually one of the first stops, which means none has papers at all. We have a lot of older people who come in for their newspapers, sit with their cup of coffee and tea in the morning, and yeah, it's quite a big impact.
Adverse weather brought 76 millimetres of rain in just 5 hours, triggering 11 landslips along a 3-kilometre stretch. 2 of them sent debris crashing onto the carriageway at Butterbridge and Glen Kinglas, closing the road today and overnight. More than 1 million vehicles use this stretch of road every year, but it is plagued by landslips. In 2020 alone, it was closed for 200 days, and with plans for a £470 million tunnel still years away, locals are fed up of temporary fixes.
It's affecting businesses, it's affecting people's mental health, it's affecting everything that they do in terms of coming in and out of Argyll. This is unpredictable events that are happening, but what the people of Argyll need is for this road to be kept open.
Where the tunnel's going is where the landslips happen most frequently. And the netting in that area has done a great job of keeping the debris from the road. So, in as much as the tunnel's in an area of frequent landslips, that's a judgment call that was made.
For now, traffic is being rerouted and the clean-up is underway. But this is just the latest chapter in a long-running saga, one that locals say won't end until a permanent and reliable solution is found. Caitlin Hutchison, STV News, and the rest and be thankful.
It's transfer deadline day, so a busy one for you and the team, Rahman.
2 nights of the year, Kellyanne, that we get to stay up till 11 o'clock at night. Yippee, yeah, it has been quite busy in some parts of the country, less so elsewhere. We have the very latest.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Yes, there are less than 5 hours remaining for clubs in Scotland to do any transfer business in or out. Jamie Bothwick has been bashing the phones today. So, Jamie, let's start with Celtic. Brendan Rodgers has made it abundantly clear he needs more players in attack. Has he got them?
Yeah, well, he has been trying, Rahman, and within the last hour we've learned that Celtic have made an approach to Chelsea to sign striker David Fofana on loan until the end of the season. He's been capped 3 times by the Ivory Coast. Celtic have made the move after it appears top target Kasper Dolberg, the Anderlecht striker, decided to rejoin Ajax. The champions are looking to add 2 strikers before the window closes. And within the last 5 minutes or so, we've learned Celtic are on the verge of completing a deal to sign Sebastian Tunekti from Hammarby in a deal of around £5 million. We also understand Celtic have decided not to pursue a loan deal for Burnley winger Manuel Benson on loan, and Yang's move to Birmingham City has fallen through. He's headed back to Glasgow. Now, on outgoings, Celtic have agreed a fee of around £7 million for Adam Ida to sign for Swansea, while Stephen Welsh is set to join Motherwell on loan.
So that's what's happening in one half of Glasgow. Jamie, what about at Rangers?
Yeah, 2 incomings, and we can reveal that Yusuf Chermiti's signing from Everton is a done deal. The 21-year-old is in Glasgow. That one has been sealed. Canadian international Derek Cornelius has also been in Glasgow. Rangers have agreed a season-long loan for the Marseille central defender. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Nikola Raskan's future, omitted from the squad that faced Celtic yesterday. It appears he'll be staying at Ibrox for the time being at least. One player who is away is winger Oscar Cortes. He's joined Spanish side Sporting Gijón on a season-long loan, while the club has accepted a bid from Panathinaikos for Cyril Dessers.
That's what's happening at Celtic and Rangers. Jamie, what about the rest of the country? Much going on?
Yeah, Hibs are working away on a deal for a loan for Scotland striker Lyndon Dykes. That's a big target for them tonight. Eli Yuan has a couple of options to move on, but he could yet remain at Easter Road beyond the deadline. Over at Hearts, the focus is on players moving out. Kenneth Vargas and Moussa Drama look closest to departing. More could follow. Rahman, the window slammed shut at 11 p.m. The clock's ticking.
Jamie, you need a breather and a lie down. You've deserved it today. Jamie with the very latest, and our live blog is up until 11 o'clock tonight. Now, Bojan Miovski says signing for Rangers is a great move for him, while Celtic defender Anthony Ralston admits his team lacked a cutting edge in the dull Old Firm derby, which finished goalless yesterday. Miovski made his Rangers debut. His appeal for a penalty for the hosts was waved away, while John Souttar's goal was disallowed for the hosts for offside. In a game of few chances, Rio Hatate's strike on the hour mark was easily saved.
I didn't have a great time in Girona, I think, but I didn't want to move, just like to move from there and want a project to keep going in my career, and Rangers was a great project for me, and come and play here.
We demand a lot of each other, you know, and we need to demand more. We need to demand more in terms of creating that chance, in terms of when we get in that final third, you know, having that cut-edge pass or that finish and build-up, being more, you know, courageous to then go on and make something happen in the build-up for the middle face through the front to create more of their chances. But we've got an abundance of talent in the team.
David Gray has questioned why Hibs weren't awarded a penalty towards the end of the draw against St Mirren at Easter Road yesterday. With the score at 1-1, Thibaut Clege's effort was blocked on the line by Saints wing-back Jayden Richardson. Hibs' appeals were waved away by referee Matthew McDermott, and following a VAR check, no spot kick was awarded. Elsewhere at the weekend, Falkirk secured their first victory in the top flight in 15 years after beating Aberdeen 1-0, and Hearts are joint top following Alexandros Chrysidis' late winner against Livingston. Stephen Naismith says he chose to return to the Scotland coaching setup rather than wait for a return to club management due to the excitement of the World Cup qualifying campaign. Naismith returns to Steve Clarke's staff for the upcoming qualifiers, which kick off away to Denmark on Friday night as the Scots aim to qualify to the tournament in the USA, Canada and Mexico next year.
I've slipped straight back in and it feels very good, feels comfortable. I think that's a good thing for me. I think it's exciting because I've been around at stages laterally when I played, when I was a coach, when things built up to what was getting to Euros, which was brilliant. And with the opportunity to get to a World Cup in 3 months is very exciting.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
And that, folks, is just about all of your sport for me tonight. Now, Kelly, I know you're interested. The transfer window, to remind you, closes at 11 o'clock. That's how long clubs have to sell or buy players. Got it?
Few hours to go, Rama, and then you'll get a rest, OK?
That's it.
All right, well, let's get your weather now with Philip. And Philip, 1st of September is definitely feeling more autumnal, isn't it?
Definitely, Kellyanne. It's been a busy day weather-wise too. We've had a lot going on. It's the first of the month and also the first day of meteorological autumn, and it certainly feels like the weather's got the message because things have definitely taken a turn. We'll take a closer look at that in just a minute. But as well as that, the Met Office have also released their list of the storm names for the new 2025-2026 storm season. Here they are, some familiar names in the mix, all of them submitted by the public, and they include names suggested to the Met Office, Met Erin, which is the Irish Met Service, and also KNMI, the Dutch National Weather Forecasting Service. So, of course, it's now just a waiting game to see when our first storm will be, and when it comes, we now know it will be called Amy. Anyway, let's take a closer look at what's in store this week. Here is your forecast.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
So yes, today has been a pretty autumnal day and it's feeling autumnal throughout the rest of this week. We'll continue to see low pressure systems and frontal systems sweeping across the country, being blown in by this westerly airflow, keeping things pretty unsettled and changeable throughout the rest of this week. Back to just now though, as we head into the overnight period, with that low pressure system centred just to the northwest of us, we'll continue to see these blustery showers feeding in, spiralling around the centre of that low from the south and west. Some of those merging together into longer spells of rain. As we head into the overnight period though, it will be turning drier with some clear spells across central, southern and eastern areas. So under the clear skies, temperatures will drop in some rural spots, getting down to the mid-single figures. For most towns and cities though, sitting at around 12 or 13 degrees. And under any clear skies tonight, there is also a high chance of spotting the northern lights. Looking ahead to tomorrow, fairly dry and bright start to the day for many of us. As we head into the afternoon though, we start to see some further scattered showers bubbling up. So overall tomorrow will once again be a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers, but it will be less windy than what we've seen today and yesterday, with temperatures reaching highs of around 18 or 19 degrees Celsius. A chilly night overnight Tuesday into Wednesday means a chilly start to the day for many of us, with some heavy and persistent rain moving in from the south later on in the day. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, it's not something you'd expect to find in your garden. A tiny 3-week-old otter cub curled up in a pile of hay in an outhouse in Shetland. The householder called in an animal sanctuary who rescued the baby, who was squeaking for her mum, and called her Hope. She's now been looked after and is expected to make a full recovery. Just lovely. And that's all we have time for this evening. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget Scotland Tonight is on air at 10:40 with that Anna Sarwar interview. From all of us here though in the team, enjoy your evening. Bye bye.